Hello everyone, welcome to week 12 and we are very close to the finish of the semester. Keeping that in mind, we have one more Excel recitation for you and then we're going to be doing something different this time for the last recitation. For this one, this should be very simple and quick. We're going to be learning to use two types of table in Excel. You might have used them previously, but yeah. So both of them are pivot tables and Excel tables. And keeping that in mind, let's get started. I think I got the section number wrong this time. Keep forgetting my sections. Don't worry, you'll get the updated slides. And yeah, let's get starting. So these are the two tables we're going to be covering, and also we'll be covering like why do we need these? We already know, like after last recitation, we know many functions and many things to do with Excel. So why do we need these tables basically? And they have like a very practical use, and not only in academia, even in industries, these are used. Like Excel, as you know, is a very widely used tool, and tables are also an important part of it. And we'll learn how to perform operations and what is the extent or the scope of these tables and how much operations we can do. So, and the main purpose that I was telling you is to process large data sets to make sense. If let's say you were working in a company and you're dealing with huge volumes of data, and only tool you have at your disposal is, let's say, Excel. So there these tables become really helpful for you to make sense of the data because they provide your data in a structured manner, and there are various uses we can do for it. And the main use is basically querying. Let's say you get a whole big data sheet or containing like we'll see of transactions, and then someone like let's say a boss asks like for your company's interest is in finding like for this specific month, let's say for November of New Jersey of this city, what were the how many transactions were there. So basically, you would want your data to be in a structured manner to answer those queries. And that's why we use these tables. We're going to practice some of them. So don't worry if you are not getting the problem or the motivation right now behind it. And let's get started. So open this example 3. I've uploaded it with the slides on Canvas, and open it with the files. And once you have done that, we'll open the 3 worksheets. So this is the example 3 worksheet. So it has like sales, transactions 1 and transactions 2. So these are the 3 worksheets we are gonna be working on. So make sure you go through them once to see how many there are, and you see these are like not especially small data set, like still smallish because it's only like 800 values, or in transactions it's more than that. So transactions has quite a lot of value. So you see this is like fairly big data set, and even if you do some operations like we did last time, like let's say you can use the sum function and everything, but if you want to like drag it down, you're going to be dragging it for a long while. So we'll need some more shortcuts to handle like such quantities of data. So let's open the sales worksheet and select the data for the pivot table, and creating these tables is very easy and very intuitive. So let's say we have the sales worksheet. So click on any cell in your data, go to insert and go to pivot table. This will give you an option. It will select your data. It's from A1 to E800. So we have basically 800 values, and we're going to be inserting on a new sheet. You can have it on an existing sheet as well. And we're going to be clicking on OK. So this should give us, yep. So this is an empty pivot table, and this has filters, rows, columns, values. We're going to be coming to that. And If you see what columns we had in our sales, we had like country, salesperson, order date, order ID, order amount. So we had like basically 5 columns, and we had a lot of entries, 800 entries for that. So this is the part of creation. This would be same for any dataset. Just click on any cell, go to insert, pivot table, and just create the pivot table. Now comes the using of the pivot table. So on the right side of the pivot table, we're gonna be having countries, and let's follow the structure that we have made, which is common through. So we'll have like in the same order, order date, salesperson, order amount. Okay. So country, order date, and salesperson we want here. So let's select country, order date, and salesperson. So these are our 3 rows. And let's say we have our order amount in values. So if you look at this table, how does it look like once it's populated? So we have it country wise. So first country is UK, US. So we have the data for these 2 countries. So first grouping, outside grouping is UK or the country. Then inside countries, we have order date. So this is the date, and this is the salesperson. Similarly, for this date, this is the salesperson, this date, this is the salesperson, and so on. And we can see the sum of order amount which every salesperson made the sales. So and you can remove these. Like if I remove, let's say, order date. So if we remove order date, we'll just get for all the dates how much. So if someone asks you like, what is the sales or what is the sum of order amount made by Sayama of UK, so you can like looking at only this table, it's really hard to manage. Like you'll have to find wherever Sayama is and then add this data using a lot of if statement. Like it is still possible, but having it structured in such a way really helps you go far and answer these queries. You can simply answer, yeah, the sum of order amount is this. Like you just need to know what all rows you want and what all columns you want. And you can do answer any query based on that table. And there's a lot of things like you can change them like this. So then you'll have the person outside and their country. Let's say a person can work in multiple countries. So let's say in this table we don't have, but you can do that. Let's cover that in some, but okay, let's have it as original. And once you have done that, let's look at some groupings. So yeah, so basically when we had an order date, and let's keep order date above the salesperson. So there are a lot of dates, and sometimes let's say we don't want specific data for the dates. Let's say we want to group them, and we want to group them by uh, we want to group them and we want to group them, let's say, monthly or quarterly or yearly. How can we do that? Because for every date, that amount that doesn't look so good. So let's go. So right click on this. Okay, one fun thing is if you want to expand or collapse, so we can do like collapse entire field and everything will be collapsed. And if you want to open everything, you can do like expand entire field. Okay, so this is one shortcut. I'll keep it on collapse. Now, to make groups, what we have to do is click on any date and click on group selection on the ribbon and make it on grouping window. So this is a little bit different than the Excel app which you'll have on Mac. Unfortunately, my license is out, so it will take me a minute to figure out where the appropriate functions are in this online version. Okay. So you see, if I use a desktop app, I think that option is not available on the online app. But if I use a desktop app, recreated the same table, having the rows and values as similar. And you can just go to the group selection and just click on one of the dates, group selection, and click on group field. Now we can make the groups however we want. Let's say we want quarters, or let's say we want months. Click on OK. So then we get the data like this. Also, why salesperson at top? We want the salesperson. So you see in January, these 4 salesperson made these sales. If you drag it above this, you can get, okay, yep. So here you can get all monthly sales for a particular. So let's say this person, Buchanan, made very low sales in April. Like you can do various sorts of analysis based on this and having different values here. Okay. Yep. So going back to the slides, we can go and collapsing and expanding, which we just covered, how you can collapse and expand your data and summarize it. And now similarly, this was the sales worksheet, and we'll do one more pivot table for the transactions worksheet. So go to your transactions worksheet. So this is transactions 1. Go to this. Again, if you forgot about how to do the expanding and collapsing, so click on one of the fields and click on collapse and collapse entire field, and it will be collapsed. So follow the steps to create a pivot table. The time columns and filters will be added to the filter table. So if you see, we left 2 fields in the sales worksheet. We didn't use filters or columns. We're going to be using that in transactions worksheet and how they can help us more. And on the pivot table field list, we'll have category name, product name, ship country, ship city, and quantity. And we'll see how the tables come out, and we'll click on category label. So let's get started first, and let's create the pivot table. So we'll go to insert pivot table on a new worksheet. This is where we got. So we need category name, product name, quantity, ship country, and ship city. 1 second, let me just look. Category name, product name, ship country, ship city, and quantity. Category name, product name, ship country, ship city, and what else was there? So this time we have a lot of columns and quantity. Okay, got it. So, and we don't want them in values. So we'll get them to our columns quickly on the pivot. We'll go to the fields. So once we've selected these fields, we can see the pivot table. So on the category label such as beverages, hit the collapse button and see how it looks. So we'll need to first get these here. Only in the values we need quantity, because that's the value we are concerned about, like how much transaction, like quantity of transactions are there. And let's how to organize it. Let's see. Let's do it in the order: category name, product name. So let's have category over there. category on the top. Category product, ship country, ship city. This looks good. So we have these categories like beverage, condiments, confections, dairy products, and inside one of them we have their products like beverage. Chai is a beverage, Chang is a beverage, and there's a lot of beverages. Ipo coffee and all that. And inside every beverage, we have the ship country. So Austria and Austria Grass has 58 transactions for this particular beverage. And this is how we can interpret this data right now. And you can go ahead and you can shuffle them around to make out different meanings. And how to decide the order and which true, that always depends on your query, what you are asked to do with the data. Now let's see modifying the pivot table. So rather than having collapsible pivot table, we will wish to have a more traditional pivot table. So on the lower portion, right side of the screen, drag ship country to entry to column labels quadrant. So rather than having the countries here, if we drag it to columns, we'll have them column wise. And if you see, oh, let me just collapse all. Collapse entire field. And this is our pivot table. So for every country, country wise, we can see. So for example, we see that grains and cereals are not present in Norway and Poland. There were not any transactions there. Or if we go like this, if you see this table is very sparse. So let's say for chai, and this is because these are the cities here. So as you know, Mexico DF is in Mexico only, and it's this city is not present anywhere, so it won't have any values. So a city belongs. So this is basically a wrong grouping, and maybe we could like remove this ship city filter altogether if we want to organize it this way. Ship city, do that, then it makes much more sense. But that's the reason why some values are blank. They could also be blank because that beverage is not taken there. So no one drinks chai in Denmark, or no one drinks Outback Lager in, where does no one drink it? Again in Denmark or Finland or so on. So I hope you got the sense what we can do with columns. And once we have done that, so this is basically a table of category versus ship country. And if we click on the minus sign on the left, the pivot table shows detailed information of products and cities. Okay. We discussed why all these some of the entries are blank. And let's move on. So now once we have discussed columns, so there's only one quadrant remaining, which is the filter. And filter, as it sounds, a filter is just used for filtering. So let's say, so what do they want that has countries and cities? So this is a task. Okay. We'd like to filter certain information based on shipper of our product. So now we want to, there are particular shippers who do these shippings for us. And we would want to have filters based on the shipper. So we'll create the filter as the shipper name field. And let's see how we can. So let's say we want to compare our shippers, like which shipper is helping us out more in which country. So let's drag it to shipper. So here right now it's showing for all the shippers. So the data here is for all the shippers. So let's say we are concerned about the dairy products in Germany. So which shipper is selling how many dairy products? So total among all the shippers, 1800 dairy product shipments are there. But let's compare one by one. So let's say by federal shipping. So how much does federal shipping have dairy product sale in Germany, so that accounts to 482. So you can answer particular queries based on a particular filter of a shipper like this. So we added this to our filter. Let's say we don't want to know what Speedy Express is doing, only United plus Federal, and we see that they account for 1093 sales. Or you can do it for arbitrary for any of these and check out what impact is it having on your total shipments. So this is filter for you. And now going to the pivot table. So I have a task for you guys. So create a new pivot table, and it should be based on transaction one worksheets as well. And that should have countries and cities as rows, shippers as column labels, employees as filters, and quantities as values. So if you've understood it, it shouldn't take you more than a few minutes. So pause the video here, try and create a new pivot table with these following constraints. And let me also give you a question. So countries and cities are rows and shipper as column label. So tell me which shipper made most shipments, or like the quantities, whatever it is, um, in the country of, let's say, Mexico. So I'm not sure if there would be a particular answer to that. I just made it up on the spot. And yep, I think this should be good. So try it out and try and see if you can find answer to this question. So, okay, let me do it with you now. So go back to the transaction one, click on insert, pivot table, new worksheet. So what do we want here? We want countries and cities as rows. So we want ship country, we want ship city, and we want them as rows. Then we want employees as filters, shippers as column labels. So we need shippers, employees, and quantities. So shippers, columns, employ. Okay, where is quantity? Quantity is values, and where is so employee ID as filters. So we have got everything down. Let me just collapse everything. Okay. So I said in Mexico, which shipper has the maximum shipment? So if we go, so Federal has 450, Speedy has 185, and United has 390. So we see the answer to that should be Federal shipping to the question I asked. On you can even filter on this. So let's say for a specific employee ID, like that question and the employee ID should be 4, then you have to tell, then in that case, Speedy Express wins if you apply that particular filter. So this is how you can use pivot tables for basically answering any query that you might be asked and like making sense of your unstructured data. So I hope you got a good idea of how to work with these tables. And if we are done with pivot tables, we'll go to the Excel tables. And I would say these are even simpler than the pivot tables in a sense. So let's see how are they different from pivot tables and what we can do with them. So let's go on creating. So it's the same. We go to the insert table icon, and instead of pivot table, we just click on create table. Okay. And let's see how that helps. So we'll use transactions 2 for this one. We'll go to insert and we'll go to table, and this will give us the range. So we have like more than 2000 entries for this one. And this is it. This is our Excel table. And you can see, so one thing I like about the Excel table is its contrasting scheme. Because when you have like very big tables going from left to right, let's say you have like Canada for chai Canada, and you want to see what was the freight on that one. So going like this, you can easily mark it's like 44. But if it's not contrasted like this, light blue and dark blue, it becomes you can get lost going across in the table. So this is one thing I like about Excel tables, the way it presents it. And also it's basically used when you have a lot of filters to use together. And we'll come to that in a sec, but this is how you create an Excel table. So once we have done, so how do we do operations is for all the operations, you see these small arrows on all the columns. We can do all sorts of operations based on that. You can do sort. So let's say you want to sort by this country. So you can just do sort ascending and it will be, the data will be sorted by the countries in ascending order. Or you can filter them. Let's say you only want data for Argentina. So you'll get like the table is reduced from 2000 entries to like only 35 entries that are of Argentina. So you can apply those filters like that. And you can select like multiple countries. Like if you only want if you don't want Germany and Ireland, you can just remove them. So you can apply specific filters like this on all the columns and they're applied to the whole table. This is one very good neat trick. And let's do something interesting with Excel tables. So to create a new formula based without using cell references or structured formula. So there's another way we can use some formulas here, which are not possible in normal Excel, but which are only tailored for the Excel tables. So we'll create a new column. So notice that we have a unit price and discount columns, and we'll use those names to calculate the net price of the product. So we'll create a column called net price and it will be set up. And once we have that, we'll use our formula there and uh, get that net price. So let's create here. Price. And you see it becomes the part of the table. And now to fill it, what our net price should be is unit price into the quantity. So we'll do 14 into 20. That should be a unit price. But here we can do, because it's a table, we can use at the rate and we can reference the row like quantity and we can multiply it by our unit price. So that is unit price. So this you see like this, and if we click on enter, we don't have to drag it all the way down. This is applied to all the values of the columns simultaneously. And see, this is much more convenient than like having a formula and then dragging it out. You can directly refer to the whole column and multiply two columns like this. So this was that. And you can, one task for you or homework task for you is to have like another final price. You can have something like final price and do it like 1 minus discount. So unit price into 1 minus discount, and you can get that like that. So follow this and you can keep that as your practice or homework. And you can have like net sale, and net sale would be net price into quantity. So we have just created a column. It's similar to that task. Nothing difficult. So let's say we want, because we don't have net sale yet, if you have net sale, we'll use net price. So let's use net price between $200 and $500. And this should be sorted by product name. So let's say from the whole table, we only want records related to Germany, net price. So this is basically our query which we need to answer. So how do we do that? So first thing is we want only for Germany. So we go to the country, deselect all, and we only want Germany records. And we click on this, and this is automatically applied. So you see, we only have a few entries that are only for Germany. Then we have more filter. Oh, my bad. Okay, what's happening? Okay, I think my scroll seems to have gone bad. Yep. So, and the net price should be between 200 and 500. So let's go to our net price column. Let me go to net price, and we want to have it filtered, and we want to filter is basically it should be less than or equal to 500, and once we have one, and we want it to be greater than or equal to 200, and this is our filter now. So now we have only those transactions which have the price between 200 and 500, and we have reduced a lot of these. And finally, what we want is to sorted by product name. So product name, and we sort it basically ascending by product name, and this is a final table that we want. So if you have to supply an output of table in a particularly filtered table, then I think Excel tables are the way to go over pivot tables. And this is how you do it. I've done it here, but if you didn't follow it properly, you can find the instructions in the slides. Also, if you want to further filter based on date and particular date like April 1 and June 30, we can do it like that. And also we want quantity greater than 20. So let's apply more filters to it. So let's go to order date. So we'll use, so this is like this. So we'll use between, and then we'll enter the date. So it was 4th April 1st, 2013, and before June, so 06, 0, 06, 6, 1. Oh, yeah, just select it manually. Okay, I'm using it here. I think mouse is not working, but let's say only 2013. Let's say you want only for 2013 data, but you know how if you have to do it by date, you can do it like that as well. And we want quantity only to be greater than 25. So we'll choose quantity greater than 25. Click enter, and we get some final results. And sorted by ship city and shipper name. So sorted by ship city and shipper name. So this is how we use Excel table. This was one example of that. And I think this should be enough for you to get a good introduction to both of these tables. And I hope you can use them in your assignment, upcoming assignment, which should be due soon. And let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. and I'll see you all next week. Please don't forget to fill out the weekly attendance form. And yep, have a good weekend.